Hi guys, Jamie here from JB Motion. So my last video I actually uploaded a rigging a hand tutorial, and the video before that was a how to model a hand, and I actually forgot to upload the final video, which was the how to animate the hand. So this video I'm just uploading the whole lot all in one. So it's modeling, rigging and animating of the hand that you're looking at right now. So apologies if you were waiting on the last part of that video, and apologies again if you have to now go and watch the first two parts. What I've done is I've put the time parts down in the description, so if you've already seen part 1 and part 2, you can just skip ahead to the last part of this tutorial. So let's get started on this. Here we go.
So let's model us up a hand. So we're going to be box modeled in this, so we need a box. So let's create a cube, and we can hold down Alt before we select our subdivision surface. That'll automatically add the cube as a child to it. And let's make this cube editable. So hit C on your keyboard, and now we want to see our lines, so hit NB on your keyboard. Okay. So we want to make some cuts, so make sure that edges mode is selected. Hit KL to use your loop cut tool, and now we're able to make cuts. We can make a cut along the bottom here, and if you're not happy with the position of it, you can move it using this slider. So I'm going to go for around here, so that's, let's say, 75% on that. You can just double click and type that in. And we need one at the top as well, close to the top, so let's go for around here. I'm going to go for about, let's say, 35% on that. So let's see what we got. Okay, so we got, it looks like it could be a wrist or an arm. We're going to have to make it a bit thinner, so make sure that model mode is selected and grab your scale tool, and let's scale that down along the X to about there. Now I'm going to say to about there. As usual, you're going to eyeball this. Maybe you want a fatter wrist or a thinner wrist, so it's up to you how you want your wrist to look. Now, when I say wrist, this is actually going to be the palm of our hand. This is going to be the back of our hand. So let's actually jump into polygon mode. So our thumb can come out of here. It can come out of here if we want. Let's just say we want it to come out of here. So select this polygon, and then we need to extrude. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can hit D on your keyboard, and then you can select the polygon that you want to extrude, and then you can just click and drag. That'll extrude. A quicker way of doing it is, now I'm just going to stay in polygon mode, and with my move tool selected, I'm able to select hover over the axis I want to extrude along, and then just hold control. And then we can extrude out. I'm letting go of control, pressing it down again, letting go, pressing it down again. So that's a really quick way of extruding out. So let's extrude our thumb. Hold down control, let's drag that out. I'm not going to tell you how far you need to drag it out. You just need to eyeball it and drag it out as far as you think a thumb would go. Now when I say a thumb, I mean half of a thumb, because we need to do another extrude for the top half of the thumb. Before we do that, I'm going to scale this down a little bit. Again, I'm saying a little bit, no exact values. I'm going to rotate this slightly up, so I can give you a value there, 22.1%, maybe even 26.4 degrees, not percent, sorry. And let's go into our move tool and extrude that again. Now if we lift this, well, let's rotate it first ever so slightly, and we can move this up along the Y. out a little bit more and scale it down. So that's our thumb. Now it might not look like a thumb to you, but it looks like a thumb to me. So I'm going to go with it. It's a thumb. It's a thumb. Here we go. Okay, so next we're going to create our fingers. So our fingers are going to be coming out here at the top, of course. So we need to do some cuts. Again, KL on your keyboard. We're going to do a cut here and here. But we want them to be spread out evenly. So how do we do that? You can click anywhere. Literally anywhere within this rectangle. So if I click here, and then we can click this plus button, and that'll give us 2 cuts. It'll add another cut and it'll space them out evenly inside of the boundaries of this rectangle. So that's pretty cool. We can add another one and another one and another one, and it'll space out all of our cuts. So that's a really handy way of doing it. I'm just going to undo that, and I'm going to make sure that we just have 2 cuts. Okay, so now we have our thumb, we got our cuts. Let's go into polygon mode, select our cube, and we are going to, with our live selection tool, we can select this polygon. And now we want to do an inner extrude, because we don't want to extrude all of these, because if we do, you're just going to get like a mitten, and we do not want a mitten. We want fingers. So let's just select our first polygon here. Now you can see that this is going to be our this is going to be the index finger. This is going to be the middle finger. This is going to be the pinky. But right now the index is way bigger than the index and the pinky, so we need to scale that down so that it isn't noticeably bigger than the pinky and the index. So that looks kind of even. So now let's click on this first polygon here, hit I in your keyboard, that'll open up your extrude inner tool, and then just click on the polygon you want to create the extrude on, the inner extrude, and let's set the offset here to 0.3 and hit enter. Let's do the same for the middle finger. Click on it, 0.3, and hit enter. And we're going to do the same here. Now look, you can see that that is really small. So let's undo this. We don't want the middle finger to be that small. So let's grab this polygon and make it a bit wider. Now let's try that again. I on your keyboard, select the polygon first, I on your keyboard, 0.3 here in the offset, hit enter. Let's try it here again. Hopefully it doesn't look that small, so that's acceptable. We can widen that up later. And let's do it here on the pinky. Okay, so now we got 3 finger bases, so we can extrude all of these. Let's go for our live selection tool, select here and hold down shift and select those 3. So let's do something about this middle finger right now. Just select it and we can widen that up a bit. Let's make this pinky a bit smaller and we'll leave it at that. So we can extrude our middle finger first because it's going to be the tallest. So let's extrude this. So with your move tool selected, inside of polygon mode, hold down control on the Z axis there and just drag that up. Let go of control and let go of your click, and let's just drag that up again. Now apologies in advance for this FU finger. I'm not directing it towards any of you at all. This is just the way it's looking at the moment. I'll turn it to the side so as not to offend anybody. Let's do the same with our index finger. Select the polygon there, hold down control, and let's bring that up. So we want the middle part of the finger to be slightly lower in height than the middle finger. Hold down Control, let's extrude that, and we want the tip to be slightly lower in height than the middle finger tip also. Let's grab our pinky, hold down Control, extrude that up. We want the middle part of this to be slightly lower than our index middle part. So just ever so slightly, and then hold down Control and let's bring that up as well. So our pinky is just going to be just slightly lower than our index tip. Okay, so we have what's looking like a hand. We could, let's see what we could do. We could, so it's a bit wide, so we could just hit Control A to select all of our polygons, making sure your polygon mode is selected, and then we can go into our scale tool and we can just scale that down ever so slightly, and that's looking a bit better. We need an arm, so let's select our cube, deselect our current selection. Let's grab all of these polygons down here at the bottom, move tool, hold down Control, and let's just extrude that down along the Y, and let's do it again. Okay, we need to grab our loop selection tool, so UL on your keyboard, and let's grab this loop here, scale it down. Now I'm just scaling this down by clicking anywhere in the screen other than on the, well, you could also click on the polygons here, but it's just safer to do it anywhere on the screen. Scale that down. The wrist gets thinner as it goes down. Let's grab this one, UL again, grab that loop. We'll scale that down a little bit, and we'll go UL again, and we'll grab this loop, and we will grab, with our live selection, we'll grab these polygons here, holding down Shift, and we'll just scale those down ever so slightly. Might move them down a little bit as well. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Our arm thickness, well, our arm thinness is a bit too thin. I'm just going to turn off this grid because it's in the way. So let's thicken up our arm a little bit. UL on your keyboard for loop selection. Let's grab this here and this, and we'll go 9 on our keyboard for live selection. Hold down Shift and just grab these little stragglers here. Now we can scale this up here along the X-axis to thicken that up a bit. That's not working. Oh yeah, because somehow enable axis got turned on, so if that happened for you as well, just turn that off. And now we can thicken that up there. That's looking much better. So it's still looking kind of blocky, like as a whole. Our hand is looking a bit kind of blocky. So to fix that, select your cube, go into point mode, hit Control A to grab all of your points, and then hit MG on your keyboard. It's going to open up your iron tool, and then what we can do is just click anywhere and just kind of drag that. So you can see that there's a percentage that's changing here as I'm dragging up or down. So here we have like a weird kind of a, this is at 100%, it's kind of a alien hand. I'm going to undo that. I just want to bring it to about maybe 25%. So that's not looking too bad. Let's look at our fingers, actually. Just our fingers. Let's go into our right view, and if we select our rectangle selection tool, we can then just grab our fingers, hop back into perspective, MG again on your keyboard, and let's just see if we can kind of smoothen those out a bit, iron those out a bit. I'm going to scale these also. I'm going to scale these down a little bit here along the X. Yeah, that's looking better. They're looking more round now. And also I want to, maybe a little bit more. Also I want to move these up, because right now they're in the dead center of the hand. So we don't really, there's no clear kind of palm and there's no clear back of hand. So if we go to our move tool, we can move these up or down. So if we move these to about here, now you can see we have more of a kind of a palm area. And if you look at your hand, the back of your hand is actually a lot flatter. So we got a back hand area. The thumb should go forward a little bit, I think. So if we grab the thumb, point mode is selected, hit UL on your keyboard. We can hold down, well, select the loop first, and then we can hold down Shift to select. We don't need to select any other loops. One loop is enough. No, we need 2 loops. We need this one also. So with those 2 loops selected, now you could do this in polygon, or in point mode, or in polygon mode, doesn't matter. Let's move these forward. So I'm looking at my hand, so the thumb should go forward a little bit. Maybe let's deselect this loop, UL on your keyboard to go into loop selection, hold down Control to deselect, and click. Now I can move this forward here. So let's see what we got. Okay, so that's looking more handy, I suppose, more handy. And that is it for our hand modeling. So what we're going to be doing next is rigging this bad boy up, and we're going to be animating the fingers. So the next thing we're going to be doing is rigging our hand. So we're going to select our joint tool. You'll find that under character here, and there it is. So let's hop into our right view, and we can zoom in here to the bottom of our arm. Let's turn on our grid, and we can hold down Control and just click, and that's going to create the first joint. Now let's just turn off this root null, because it's just creating a root null there when we create a new joint. So I'm just going to turn that off, and now we can continue on. So I'm going to hold down Control, I'm going to go up to the wrist, hold down Control and click again. Now as you can see, that's kind of bent. We want it to be aligned, so undo that, and let's make it so that Shift, when we hold down Shift, it draws in an aligned joint. So it'll be aligned to our start point here. So I'm going to hold down Shift about here. Well, it could be anywhere, it could be over here. But I'm going to go in the middle and hold down Shift. And there we have our wrist joint. So if I just undo that, I did say it could be anywhere. We could go over here. That wouldn't work. It's only the second time that it will be aligned. I'm holding down Shift. Remember, we said Shift here to draw a line. I'm clicking anywhere, and it's drawing it in a straight line. So just keep that in mind. It's only going to be aligned after the second time you click, if it has a joint to align to, that is. So we need to make sure that the first one we put in is more or less in the center point, down at the bottom of our arm, and then the second point here, which is going to be the wrist, is also in the center. So I'm just holding down Control and I'm clicking. Now we can click anywhere and hold down Shift around here. I'm going to aim for the knuckles, and that'll align the joint to the joint beneath. And now we're going to go over here to the left to start setting up the bones or the joints for our index finger. Now if I hold down Shift and click, it's going to draw a line straight up. So we want to go across the way. So we're going to hold down Control this time. You can change the effect the Control will have. So right now it's set to draw. So if I hold down Control and I'm going to zoom in a bit, try and get it to the center of our index finger, holding down Control and clicking. And now I need to hold down Control again to add a joint here where our index finger meets our hand. So I'm going to hold down Control and I'm going to click again. Now we can use Shift and it'll align to the joint underneath. So we're going to go for around the middle point of the index finger, and then we're going to go up to the tip and hold down Shift again. Okay, so next we want to do the same for our middle finger. So first, without holding Control or Shift, we need to select this joint here, and now we can hold down Control and we can draw the first joint in there. This time we can hold down Shift and it'll align. Hold down Shift and we want this joint to go up just slightly higher than our index finger there, to about here. And then up again to our tip. Now you can see this isn't perfectly straight, so we could just, let's undo that. Let's try that again. So let's just go up along here, try and get it as straight as we can for the first click. And there we go, about there. And I'm going to hold down Shift this time, slightly above the index joint, and then holding down Shift up to the tip. Now let's select this joint again and hold down Control this time. And then let's click around here. Let's go up, create this base joint here of our pinky. Make sure it's going up as straight as you can get it from this joint, like so. And the pinky is, the midpoint of the pinky is going to be lower than the midpoint of the index, just ever so slightly lower. I'm holding down Shift this time, and now I'm going to go straight up to the tip. Okay, so let's jump into perspective and have a look at this setup. Okay, so our bones are looking pretty good. What we could do is go back into our right view and just see if we can improve on it a little bit. So I'm just going to grab my move tool, and no, actually I'm going to go back into my joint tool, select this joint here, select my move tool, and make sure that model mode is selected, and then we can just kind of straighten it out. It looks a bit bent, and this one as well. If we use 7, we can actually just move single joints by themselves. If we're not holding 7, we're moving the joint and all of its children. So if we want to just move one joint by itself, just use 7 to do that. So I just want to straighten these out here. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So now we can go and do the joints for our thumb. But before we do that, I'm just going to name the joints that we have already created. So let's go here and we can call this joint arm. And without hitting enter, just hit down on your D-pad, or on your just hit your down arrow on your keyboard. Down on your D-pad. Too much playing The Last of Us 2 recently. So now we can call this one wrist. Hit down on your keyboard, and then we can call this one, we don't need to call this one anything actually, because we're not going to be using it. So we can just double click into joint 4. Double click on that, and we can call this pinky. Hit down on your keyboard, and then let's call this pinky mid. And hit down again on your keyboard, and we'll call this pinky tip. Now let's go for joint 3 here, and we can call this middle. Let's hit down on our keyboard and call this middle mid. and hit down on our keyboard. We can call this middle tip. Joint 3 we can call, we don't need to call joint 3 anything, so leave that as is. Joint 4 we're going to call this index. Down again on the keyboard, index mid, and down on the keyboard for the index tip. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. Now we can go about creating our thumb joints. So let's go back into our joint tool. You can go to your recent tools here and grab your joint tool from there. Now we want to select this joint here because this is where our thumb joint is going to come out of. And then we can hold down Control when we want to create a new joint. So let's go about here, hold down Control, and that'll create a new joint for us. Let's go to about the midpoint of our thumb. Gonna go about here, hold down Control, and up to the tip then, holding down Control each time. So we can call this one thumb, we can call this one thumb mid, and this one thumb tip. Okay, so now we can tidy up our joints even further. So let's zoom in here. And I want to grab my, what's this now? This is my index tip. So index tip is here, and I'm going to drag this up so that it's right at the tip. And we could actually just select this and all of its its parents up to the index here by middle mouse clicking on the index. Actually, we want to select joint 3 and all of its children. So middle mouse click on joint 3, and then we can just kind of center that up in the index finger, like that. Let's do the same for the middle finger. So I just want to get the middle tip and make sure it is in fact at the tip of the finger. Now that's bone sticking out a bit there. Don't worry about that for now. We will fix that in a minute. They both are. And this one is close enough to the tip, the pinky. So we'll go pinky tip, move that up a little bit more. They're all sticking out, so we need to just push them all back. And pinky, the bones for the pinky could be a little more centered into the pinky. So we can grab joint 3, middle mouse click on joint 3. It'll select joint 3 and all of its children. And then we can just move that in slightly. Okay. Now we want to move these back. So if we hop into our top view, we want to move all of our joints back along the x-axis there so that they're more, well, so that they're in the right position. So what we can do is middle mouse click on the arm joint. That'll select all of our joints because the arm is the highest parent there, and we can move that right back so that we're getting our finger joints right in the center of our fingers. Now let's focus on our thumb joints. So if we grab our thumb and everything below it by middle mouse clicking, actually we can go to thumb mid and middle mouse click on that to grab thumb mid and the thumb tip. Can move those in. Now let's just grab the thumb tip, move that one in. Let's go back to thumb mid, move back a little bit, and thumb tip. Kind of like that, I guess. Something like that is looking good. Let's just make sure that this bone isn't protruding out of the geometry. Let's do the same for all of them. So for the index tip, this could be closer to the tip. And for the middle tip, again, it's not right at the tip. And the pinky tip, again, we'll move that up right to the tip. Okay, so that's all of our joints set up and named. All of the ones that we need to be named are named anyway. So what we can do now is we can actually drag the ones that we're going to be using the most onto our viewport here, onto our user interface. So we'll be able to access them quickly without having to go, where is it? Oh, it's here. So let's say we're going to be using the thumb a lot. So let's just drag the thumb over here into our viewport and then release. And our thumb mid we're going to be using a lot also. We're going to be using our index a lot and our index mid. Now the reason I went to index instead of going to the next one on the list, which is pinky, is because, well, just for my own organization, thumb is coming after the pinky, so it makes sense. We're going to be using the middle finger a lot. Let's drag that in, and the middle mid. And we're going to be using the pinky. So we can drag that in, and pinky mid also. So now we can just grab these joints just by clicking on them. So that's really handy. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bind our joints to our geometry. So before we do that, I'm just going to make a duplicate of this. I'm holding down Control, dragging it down. I'm going to hide this off, because what I want to do is I want to grab this and its child, middle mouse click to do so. We're going to right click and we're going to connect objects and delete. So that's going to make it, we're not going to be able to go back and edit this object anymore. That's why I created a duplicate, just in case we need to go back. Let's hide all those ones off there. So before I do connect objects and delete, I'm going to select the subdivision surface object, and I'm going to increase the subdivisions here up to 3. And now we can middle mouse click here, right click, and go to connect objects and delete. Now we have our hand geometry. Now it's ready to bind up with our joints. So we don't need our arm inside of this root null, so we can just drag that out. And let's delete that root null. And then we can drag our joints back up to the top of our object manager there. It's not a necessity, just to keep everything organized. And next we can bind our joints to our geometry. So middle mouse click on the arm, that'll select all of the children, and hold down Control and select the hand geometry. Go into the character option here and then go down to commands and click bind. So that's created some skin for us there and a weight expression tag, which is great. So now we can test this out. So we can use our quick selections here. So if we want to move our thumb, we can click on it. Now this is our thumb base, we'll say. Let's go to rotate, and we can now rotate that. So you can see that the geometry is looking really janky there. Not pretty at all. We're going to fix that though, don't worry. Let's try our thumb mid. So not as bad, but still not great. Let's go for our index. Let's rotate that. That isn't so bad, but again, not great. We don't want to see all this jinkiness there. Let's try our index mid. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's clean. Looks like a nice fold in the skin there. It looks well. And let's go for our middle finger. We can test this out. Yeah, so that's looking a bit janky there as well. Getting a bit of weirdness in the geometry there as well. We can also try our middle mid. That's not as bad. Anyway, we're going to fix this so that we get some nice smooth bending of our geometry. So how do we do that? We need to go into our weight expression tag. What we can do is hold down Shift and double click. That'll open up our weight manager. Let's go to our joints tab, and we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 joints. So we need to remember that number. We have 17 joints. So if we select all of them, so I just clicked on the first one, went down to the bottom one, hold down Shift and just click. That'll select all of our joints. You can see why we're getting that jankiness in our geometry, because the gradual change of color here, it isn't very smooth, so it could be a lot smoother. But we don't actually have to do anything with brushes or anything. There's a really cool tool in the weight manager called auto weight, and that's what we're going to be using. But first we need to go into the commands tab and zero out the current weights. Just hit 0, so now there's no weighting at all. Now we need to go to auto weight, type in the amount of joints that we counted, which is 17. Let's bring the distance here up to about maybe 65% and hit calculate. Now we're getting a lot smoother transitions between our colors. So let's close that now, and let's see what the result of that is. So let's try our thumb. So let's rotate that. So you can see we're not getting that jankiness that we were getting before. And let's do our thumb mid. Yeah, so that's looking much better. Let's try the index mid. Oh, we try the index actually. We'll rotate that. So you can see that that's really smooth. Looking much, much better. Let's try the index mid. That was already good anyway. Let's go for our pinky this time. And I actually don't want to bend the pinky down either. I better, we'll go for the middle. And we'll go for the middle mid. You can see that we're getting some really nice bending of the geometry there. So that is looking awesome. So this is nicely rigged and it's ready for animation. And that's what we're going to be doing in the next part of this video. Now it's important that we undo all of the changes that we've made before we move on to animating. So just hit Control Z a few times until we get our fingers back to its original position. Just like that. Now we're ready to animate this hand. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring up our timeline. So a shortcut for that is Shift F3 in your keyboard, and I'm going to drag it using this little grid here, and then I can dock it anywhere I want. So I'm just going to dock it to the left side of my screen here, and I also want to increase the frame range to about 150 for the time being. And let's go and zoom in a little bit and look at what we're going to be doing first. So I'm going to start animating the pinky first. So we can use our quick select here and grab our pinky. So we're just going to be animating rotation, not position, not scale, none of the parameters outside of the position, scale, and rotation. So we can turn all of those off, leave rotation on. And we can set a keyframe. Let's make sure that we're in our coordinates tab of our joint pinky and that everything is zeroed out. Okay, so now let's add our keyframe, and we can go forward 10 frames, and we can bend this down, rotating along the Y to about, I'm going about -49. Now, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, just kind of follow along and try and figure out how we're going to animate this. You can bend it backwards if you want, but I'm going to go forwards on mine. And I'm adding a keyframe there, another one at frame 10. And I'm going to go back to about frame 5. And I'm going to select pinky mid. I'm going to add a keyframe here. And then I'm going to go to frame 15. And I'm going to bend pinky mid. Pinky mid is still selected. I'm going to bend pinky mid down to about -75.1 degrees. So kind of like that. And I'm going to add another keyframe. So let's see what that looks like. Okay. So that's looking nice and natural, you might say. So now we're going to bring this back up. So I'm going to go to frame 25. And I want to bring this back up. Now when I say this, I mean the pinky. Bring it back to 0. And we can add a keyframe. You can use this here. I'm just going to use this one here. And I'm going to go back to frame 20. I'm going to go and select my pinky mid, add a keyframe, and I'm going to go to frame 25 again. And I'm going to 0 that out also. And then add another keyframe. See what that looks like. Okay, so that last part where pinky mid is bending back up is happening a bit too fast. So I want pinky mid to slow down a little bit. So I'm going to drag the last frame of pinky mid to frame 30. Now, how did I specifically select pinky mid? How did I specifically select the last keyframe? I'll undo that. All you have to do is select pinky mid, and you can see what keyframes are pinky mid. So we have them all selected here. Now deselect, I'm going to grab this one, which is the last frame of pinky mid, and drag it to frame 30. So now if we play that, that's a bit slower and it makes it a bit more natural. Okay, so now we have our animations set up for our pinky finger. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy these keyframes and I'm going to apply them to the middle finger. So that should be simple enough to do. Let's jump into our middle joint here. Now, okay, so we can see that. So you can see that these coordinates here, the rotation coordinates, are not set to 0. And if we go and copy these keyframes, so I'm just going to copy these keyframes and we can apply them to the, let's see, we want to apply them to index. So if we want to copy keyframes, we need to show index in our timeline. So to make it show in our timeline, we can just select it, add a keyframe, and then we can select middle mid and add a keyframe. Now we have middle mid and, oh, we don't want index. We have middle mid and middle. Yeah, okay, so now we have middle and middle mid in our timeline. So we can just grab our, well, we've already copied our keyframes, so we can do it again. If we select pinky and pinky mid, hit Control C, then select middle and middle mid, I'm holding down Control. And then if we bring our time indicator thingy back to 0, hit Control V. Now you can see that we've copied those keyframes, but that's not the effect we're looking for. And the reason for that is because, it's going to undo all of that. The reason for that is because the middle joint and the middle mid. Well, middle mid is zeroed out, but the middle is not. So we need to zero that out. So how do we do that? We select our middle joint and we go to coordinates tab here, click on this little freeze transformation arrow, and we can freeze all, and that'll zero everything out for us. So with that done, we should now be able to, let me just check something. We want to check that the axes are all pointing in the same direction. So here you can see that the x-axis handle is pointing in that direction. Let's check the pinky. It's pointing in the same direction. So we're good to go on that. So we want to, again, we want our middle and our middle mid to show up here in our timeline. So to do that, select middle, just add a keyframe, select middle mid and add a keyframe. Now we can select all of our keyframes by selecting pinky here in our timeline, holding down control and selecting pinky mid, hit control C, and if we select middle and hold down control, select middle mid, hit control V, now we're getting the animation. So the timing is off, but it is giving it to us. So one's going a bit faster than the other, so we can stretch that out. Not quite sure why that is. Oh, I think that fixed it, yeah. There is a slight difference, but you know what? I'm not going to try and figure out why that's happening, because I actually like the subtle difference between both fingers. It's actually way more natural. So I'm going to go with that. Okay, and now we can copy the animation to our index finger. So what are we going to do? We're going to copy the animation of our pinky and our index over to our index finger. So let's just select our index joint. Now straight away you can see a problem. If we jump back to the pinky here, the x-axis handle is pointing in this direction. If we go into our index, you can see that it's pointing in the opposite direction. So we need to fix that. So how do we fix that? Well, let's say index is pointing in that direction and index mid is also. How about index tip? Yeah, so they all are. In fact, every joint under joint 3, they're all pointing in the wrong direction. So maybe we could try just rotating them. So let's just grab rotate, and if we rotate these, so that's going to also twist our geometry. So we don't want to do that. What we need to do before we do anything is disable the skin object here. Now we should be able to rotate our joints 180 degrees without affecting our geometry. Hold down shift to increment, to rotate in increments of 10 degrees until you get to 180. Now if we go to our move tool, okay, all of our joints are pointing in the same direction, which is great. But we need to do one more thing. We need to go to our weight tag, and we need to, oh, first of all, we need to set bind pose. Now we can re-enable our skin, and if we select our index and go to our rotate tool, everything should be in working order. And it is. Okay, perfect. So now we can copy our keyframes from our pinky and our pinky mid to our index finger. Now first we need our index and our index mid to show up in our timeline. So to do that, we can just select our index, bring this little timer indicator back to the beginning, select index and add a keyframe, and then select index mid and add a keyframe. So now we have our index joint and our index mid showing up in our timeline. Let's select pinky, hold down control and select pinky mid. hit Control C, select the index and hold down Control and select index mid. And it'll be interesting to see what this does, because the last time it kind of gave us the wrong timing, but we liked it anyway. Well, I did anyway, but you might also. Hit Control V. So yeah, it's also doing something strange with our timing, but I'm going to go with it because I'm kind of liking it. I'm actually going to stretch it out even more so it's slower again than all of them, and by stretching it out I'm just dragging it here. So this is the overall time it takes from the first keyframe to the last. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool actually. So with that done, we don't really need our timeline anymore for the time being. So I'm just going to undock it. You can just right click here and undock that, and I'm just going to close that down. Okay. So we can set this up for a loop. Now, I'm not going to go about animating the thumb. You guys are welcome to do so. You know how to do it. If you want to, feel free to animate away. I'm just going to leave it as is for the animation with our 3 fingers there. So let's set this up for a loop. So at about frame 37, I believe it ends. Yeah, more or less. So we can set the frame range here to be 0 to 37, and now that will loop away. Okay, I'm just gonna bring up the time frame here, timeline I mean. Let's undo that change just for, oh we can't. Let's bring the frame range back up to 150. Just bear with me now for 1 second. Shift F3 to bring up your timeline. And let's kind of stagger these finger movements. Let's select our middle and our middle mid. Let's just stagger this up slightly. Now I'm just gonna, what I'm doing is basically moving the whole animation so that it starts at frame 10. Pinky and pinky mid is going to start at frame 0, and then the middle finger animation is going to start at frame, we'll say started at frame 5, and then our index and index mid can start at frame 10. So that's kind of a bit more creepy, a bit more interesting. Now we can go back again and check where does our animation end. It ends at frame 46, so we'll set the loop up to end at frame 47. So I'm just going to set the frame range from 0 to frame 47, and now we have our loop going. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the animation. Again, feel free to animate the thumb if you want. I'm just going to set this up on a kind of maybe give it a floor. Well, what we need to do first, I'm going to delete that. We need to grab all of our joints and our hand and our skin, and we need to put this into a null. Alt G on your keyboard to do so, and we can just call this hand. And let's rotate this 90 degrees. Rotate it 90 degrees so it's lying down on the floor. We can bring it up here, and now we can create a floor. And let's just make sure that it is resting on the floor. Like that. Yeah, okay, so now it's a hand on the floor, and we can give it some skin color. We just need to create a material for it. Double click in your materials panel, and then we can open that up. Let's go for a skin color, something like is that a skin color? That's kind of yellowy, isn't it? That's very pale. Okay, something like that. It's not perfect. Mess around with that yourselves a bit more. I might increase the specular strength and reduce the width just a little bit. And let's apply that. That is some weird looking skin color. I gotta mess with that a little bit more. So that's kind of better already. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stick with this. So these are the values on the HSV. Of course, you can mess around with it, whatever skin color you like or want to go with. And let's render that. Okay, let's get some lights in here. I'm gonna delete off that. Oh no, keep that camera. So I will actually delete off the camera because you guys didn't have a camera. And I'm gonna get a nice camera angle for this, and then create a camera. Just select that there. We can add a protection tag so that we're unable to move it around. Now set up some lights. So we create a light, and we can bring this up and closer to the palm of our hand and away, maybe up a bit more, something like that. Let's turn on shadows, set the density to about 75%. Now we can duplicate this light, bring it over a bit further, turn shadows off, set the intensity down to about 60%. Let's jump back into our camera here and see what we got. Cool, okay, let's create a white material for our floor and apply that. Let's see what we got now. Finally, we can turn on ambient occlusion in our render settings. Not sure if it'll make any difference. Our camera angle's not going to show. Well, we're getting a bit of contact shadows around there. And we can, let's see if we can find a better camera angle for this. I'm just going to play it while I'm looking. Something like that might be cool. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Now you can see our fingers are a bit jagged here around the bend. So to fix that, we can select our hand geometry and just hold Alt and select a subdivision surface. Holding down Alt automatically adds the hand as a child of the subdivision. If we render that now we're getting some nice smooth geometry there. So NA to take away the lines, and that is it, guys. So I hope you learned a lot. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video.